this is Riley. While doing research on video game creation, it occurred to me that game script and plot development is actually super complicated. And if you want to make a game that's highly player-driven, a script kind of needs to provide a lot of different options, which means a lot of work for the author. And on top of that, if you want to write in multiple endings and side stories, it might be a little bit complicated to write a simple Word document. So instead of doing my brainstorming in Word, I decided to look for some different programs. And I figured that a mind mapping system might work a little bit better. And sure enough, I soon found a program called Twine, along with many other programs, that are used to develop interactive fiction. Interactive fiction? What's that? What's that, you say? Interactive fiction is actually something that's really cool, and I had no idea. Somehow I completely missed out on it. And it turns out that I really like it. One game that I tried works by Parser, which allows you to type in your own text responses, even though they're a little bit limited and often a little bit simple. And in this way it feels like it's actually you going through the game, even though all the answers are pre-planned out. So basically it's kind of like a simplified role-playing game like D&D, but you don't need a group or a game master, so you can play by yourself at home if you want to. And it's really interesting when you look at sort of these different game systems on a hierarchy. You have role-playing games like D&D at the top, being games where it's almost entirely improvised. You're free to do almost anything that you want, anything you can dream up, and there's a real person there to interact with you and bounce off of what you're saying. There are little to no visuals unless the GM brings in some pictures now and then, but it's still really immersive if you rely on your imagination to do all the work. Next down you have the interactive fiction, which though is still limited because you can't really do whatever you want, depending on the game, you have a lot of freedom. And also, then for the game maker, there aren't all these limitations of animation and sound effects and what have you. They can kind of do whatever they want, and again, rely on your imagination to take the lead. So it's a bit more limited than a real-life role-playing game, and there are no visuals, but it's still really immersive. And then finally, you have video games. And I'm saying finally, it doesn't mean that they're worse than the other two. I like video games a lot. It's just lower on the hierarchy of control, I guess? Maybe I'm wrong. So video games allow you to immerse yourself in images and sounds and video sometimes, in a story. But because there's so much that goes into it, often you're given a little bit less options. You might be able to turn over every object in a room, but that doesn't mean that you'll be able to take control of the story in the same way. And unfortunately, often a lot of video games' plots kind of take the back seat to their visuals. But anyways, all of that aside, video games are awesome, you can do a lot with them. It just takes a lot more. It takes a lot more effort. You have to design the images and animate it and plan it all out in a whole different way than you would have to with interactive fiction. So in this way I think interactive fiction is actually kind of awesome. Of course I'm sure it does depend on the story. I've only played one, so I'm not the best one to talk about this. But it was a really cool experience, and I actually played the interactive fiction story with Gabe, and it was kind of a fun home date, so I recommend it to anybody else who's looking for some sort of home date activity. Anyways, I'm having a lot of fun exploring all of the different options there are out there. Even though interactive fiction and video games are kind of two different things, they're also part of the same thing, and I can use interactive fiction to help me in video game plot creation and design, so getting to know one will help me get to know the other. If you're interested in trying out an interactive fiction story, the one that I tried out, which was really fun, is called The Wizard Sniffer. I'll provide a link in the little box below. It's kind of spoofy and not so serious. So have fun with your week, possibly playing video games or interactive fiction, and I will see you next Friday.